Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Friday. Today I'm going to pick up where I left off in the last video and continue discussing a Backtrader and its integration with interactive brokers. So in the last video, I showed you how to stream in some live Forex data since it was Thursday night, stock market wasn't open. So I used this FX pairs contract here to stream in some live data and just issue a basic buy and sell. And today, since I have the day off, stock market's open, I'm going to switch over to a stock contract here for those that are interested in trading stocks. And we'll stream in some stock data and add a couple more features of Backtrader and interactive brokers to the mix here and continue on with this demo. And before I get started, once again, please scroll down and check out the description and the pinned comment below. Interactive Brokers has provided a special link just for this channel. So if you take a look at this, check it out. It helps support the channel. So please click the link below and let's go ahead and get started coding this tutorial. All right, so I have my Visual Studio Code editor open here, and yesterday we created this forex.py. And what we did is we imported Backtrader so that we could use it, and we created a basic strategy class. Someone in the comments asked, why do we have this bt.strategy right here? And so if you want to know more about that, you can look at object-oriented programming and inheritance. Okay, and so like a CS 101 type of example people would use is saying, oh, there's a base animal class, for instance, and you could extend that and create a cat and a bird, right? And they both are animals, so they extend the animal class, and that would give them some certain properties, such as a color and maybe the ability to eat, right? And so you might have a function called eat. But then in each of those classes, you would define specific methods that are just for a bird, for instance. So the bird would have a fly function, but it would still inherit all the properties of animal. And so the other question I've been getting asked is how I'm able to hit control or command and then click, and I can jump into code in another file like this, in another package, and also how I can type something like bt dot, and you see how I get this auto completion here. So it's very important, and I still need to do a full video on just the setup here, but you want to make sure you install the Python extension for Visual Studio Code, like that. So there's an official Python extension by Microsoft that they maintain, and it's really good and adds some powerful functionality. And so it allows you to do this autocomplete and IntelliSense, linting, and it has debugging features, which I should demonstrate. And you can select a different Python interpreter. So I make heavy use of this in the channel, and it's really easy to install. So I'll do a separate video on this at some point, but I recommend installing this so that you can follow along a little bit easier. So this is why I don't have to stare at the documentation nonstop. So it's not like I memorize bt.timeframe.seconds right there or cerebro.resample data. I just have some ability to navigate this code base that's provided by the Python extension for Visual Studio Code. So jumping back to the strategy class here, just know that it inherits some properties from this parent strategy class. So Backtrader provides these certain base objects that you can extend to customize the functionality. And so the Backtrader author made it where there's these Backtrader custom stores and said, hey, if other people want to integrate with a Backtrader and plug in a different backend, just extend this store class, right? And so someone took that and they said, you know what, I'm going to create the interactive broker store. And they wrote a whole bunch of code that specifies how to use interactive brokers. So there's all this code going on behind the scenes that we don't have to worry about. We just instantiate their class here. And so the same way someone can extend a store object, we can extend a strategy object. And so behind the scenes, Backtrader has all this code implemented that we don't have to worry about, that manages how strategies work, right? And then all we have to do is write a little bit of specific code just to define what's specific to our strategy, and the rest of it is taken care of by Backtrader. All right, so let's go ahead and copy what we did in the last video to this other file called stock.py. And I'll put this all in GitHub at github.com. Hacking the Markets, I'll link it below, and if you just want to copy the code that I provide. And so I copied this to stock.py here, and then I'm going to change it from my strategy. Let's just call it stock strategy, and you can name it whatever you want. If you have, you know, in the opening range breakout one, I did ORB strategy or something like that. And then here, we're getting the data still, so I'm still going to start Backtrader, still instantiating Cerebro, our control center. we still connect to the interactive broker store. And then here we're going to make some modifications, right? So instead of USD JPY here, let's go ahead and look at our basic contracts here for interactive brokers. And so you can see under basic contracts in the API, I used this FX pairs here. So I had this security type here, but I need to change the security type to stock. So it's STK there. And so I'm going to change this to a security type STK. And I'm also going to change the name that we're looking up. And so we can do Apple just because everyone's familiar with that. It's actually my largest position as well. So Apple right there. And securities type is stock, and the exchange here we will put this says use island, so we'll use island. Okay, and then we can look at the time frame. And so yeah, let's change it. We could do seconds. Yeah, let's do seconds for a second just to see data come in, and let's just see if we can get second data. Right. Let's see if we can run this without any other adjustments. So the market is open, and I specified Apple stock. It said my strategy is not defined. That's because I renamed it to strategy here, stock strategy. And then so when I add my strategy, I just need to give it the name of my strategy class. And let me try running it again. And you see it's delayed. And let's see. Wow, look at that. So I understand.
Autofilled.
And you see it's going crazy right now. And let me go ahead and stop this program. I'm buying and selling a lot, or selling a lot right now.
Autofilled.
And let me kill this. Okay, so I killed that, and what happened is I should have went ahead and started over a little bit more. You see I still have these self-dot position buy, right? And so I had an Apple position in here, and since I was in the Apple position, it just started selling Apple shares on each tick. And since I was using the 1 second time frame, actually, every second it was selling one share of Apple stock, which is not what you want to do. Fortunately, you want to test this in your paper trading account, and so I'm connected to the paper trading account right now. If I were in live trading, it would have just dumped my entire Apple position very quickly. So make sure you connect to the paper trading environment and test out what you're doing first. So little lesson there. And so you can see this was working pretty well because it was just selling Apple stock over and over again, right? Sell, 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 sell every second, right? And so what I'm going to do now is comment that out for a minute. That way it's not selling every second. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this 1 second time frame here. I'm going to have the data come in a little slower so that we can look at it. And also because I don't trade on the 1 second time frame or anything like that, I don't think that's very beneficial. And so I'm just going to switch to the minutes time frame so that we can still see data coming in actively and be able to analyze it a little bit better. So I'm going to do just the 1 minute time frame for now, and we'll see some data slowly trickle in and be able to study it. I commented out my buy and sell, and I still have my logic for logging the open, high, low, close data and initializing the strategy. So that looks pretty good so far. And so let me go ahead and run this one more time. Okay, so you see it initialize the strategy and some data starting to come in. And yeah, so it's 5 minutes past the hour right now, and you see it's July 16th, and you can see the open, high, low, and close for Apple stock for each of these 1 minute periods. So you can see the previous minute, it was 147.90, was the open, the high was 147.97, and the low is there, and then the close is 147.96. So we have data actively coming in. You can see if we wait another 30 seconds or so, there'll be another bar here for 1306. So once we have this data streaming through like this, we just need to add some code in our next function, our next method here. So below here, we define what our strategy should look like, right? And how to react to it, when to buy, when to sell. So you just need to, whatever you out there have as your strategy you want to code in, you can just take this template and plug in what you want to do. And so you could take something like any of the indicators we discussed previously. You can take one of those range breakout things and just look at the previous 10 candles or whatever if you want to do something with that. So experiment with that. And so what I'll do here, you see I got another bar of data. So let's go ahead and talk about some additional features of Backtrader that we could incorporate here. So if we go back to the Backtrader documentation, you see they have the strategy classes. So they talk about different things you can do with signals, but then there's like an indicator section. And so you can see here, they've given an example of my strategy, right? And they just used a Backtrader indicator. So Backtrader has a bunch of these built in already. So if you look at their indicator reference, you don't actually need to use TALib, although it has some integration with TALib if you use that. But there's a bunch of indicators built in, so you can use any one of these. And so we can just take one of these off the shelf. And just for something simple, we can take, let's say, just the highest and lowest. So we can calculate the highest high and the lowest low of the last 10 bars, for instance, and just calculate that. And then we don't have to like run a Python max and min function or anything. And that will be calculated in a Backtrader, and we can access that as a series of data the same way we access the last close and the close before that and so forth. And so let's talk about how to do that. So you see they have an indicator here, and in Backtrader, you initialize these indicators in the constructor function, this init function, and then once you say SMA1 equals indicator simple moving average, then you'll have access to the current simple moving average for whatever time frame you specify, and the previous, so that we use those indexes to access the latest moving average and then the previous ones before that. Same way we did that with the closing value. So we logged the most recent candle by using this 0, but we can get the candle before that with by using -1, the one before that with -2. And so yeah, look, just instead of talking about it, let's go ahead and just use one of these. So let's go ahead and add an indicator here. So I'll do self.highest. So I'm going to keep track of the highest highs in a series, and I'm going to do a bt.indicator or .ind.highest. Okay, and what that does, I need to give it the data and the period, and so my data is going to be self.data.high, and so I just pass it my series of highs, and it knows what to do, and I just give it a period. So I do period equals, and what period do we want? Let's just say we have a period of 5, and so what this is going to do is always give me the highest high of the last 5 periods, and I can do the same with lowest. So I'll do bt.ind.lowest self.data.low and do period equals 5, just like that. And then inside of my log data, or inside of next, we'll do it inside of next. Let's see if I can just print the values of these. So I'm going to do a self.highest. Okay, and then this is a series of values. So I can look at the current highest and I can look at the previous highest, right? So let's say I want to print highest and then print lowest. And then I'm going to do the 0, so the current one. Okay, and so I'm going to stop this. Let me run this again. Okay, so it's streaming in data, and it's going to look at the last 5 candles and then tell me what the highest high was and the lowest low. And did I do, yeah, self data high and self data low. So these are series of highs and lows, and it's going to run a calculation on each of those. And so as soon as a new bar of data comes in live, then we should get this calculation printed out right here of the highest high and the lowest low. There you go, for the last 5 bars. And so I printed whatever the highest high was, and it says 148.06. So let's look at the last 5 bars here. Okay, so we got open, high, low, close. So this is the high here. So we got 148, 147.99, 148.02, 148.06. Right, which is higher than all 5 of these. So 148.06 is the highest high of the last 5 bars. And it says the lowest low was 147.94. So if I look at the lows here, 147.94 is the most recent one, right? So, and that's lower than these other previous 4 here. And so that looks like it's working correctly. And just so you can see how we can compare against the previous highest high, what I could do here is say current highest high, comma, and then I'll do current lowest low, and then I'm going to also copy this and print the previous one in case the highest high changed from the previous one. And so I can say previous highest high and previous lowest low, and then see if this changes. So the previous one, I could do -1, right? And so if you want to see, compare the current bar's moving average to the previous one's moving average, that's what you would do here. And so you can see how your indicator values change over time as well, not just your open, high, low, close. And so let me run this one more time with this new code here, and just so you can see the difference. All right, it says the current highest high is 148.02, and the current lowest low is 147.90. So you can see the previous highest high, it said 148.06. So something must have changed with the new data that came in. So if I look at my highest high column here, you see the previous highest high was 148.06, right? So for these 5 candles, the highest high was 148.06. But as soon as a new bar came in, that 148.06 is no longer in the 5 periods that I specified, right? So the highest high now that I've highlighted is 148.02. See how that one scrolled off the screen? And so I can compare whether the highest high changed or not. And so how does that help me? Well, we talked about this opening range breakout. So pretend we're looking at the first 15 minutes of the day, and we want to see what the highest high and the lowest low are for those first 15 minutes of the day. And we want to check whether the close went above, that highest high, right? And so if the close went above the highest high, then the close would actually be the new highest high, right? And so what we can do is compare the most recent close to the previous highest high to say, oh, this broke out of this opening range. So let's do that as an example. So I'll say if self.close 0, that's the current close, self.data.close is greater than self.highest previous, right? So that's the previous one. And you can assign those to variables if you want. So say previous highest high equals self.highest -1, if that makes it a little easier to understand. And so I'll just say if the current close is greater than the previous highest high. And so then we can say closed above previous high of, and I'll make this an F string, okay? And I'll say previous highest high here. So we'll just print it in line. And so I'll say closed at self.data.close 0. So I'm going to just print out where it closed at, and it says, and make it say, which is above previous high of that, let's buy, okay? So I'm going to log that out, and then just say self.buy, and we'll just say a size equals 10. So we'll buy 10 shares of Apple if it closes above that previous range, right? And so, yeah, let's see if we can make this buy execute. So I'm going to run that one more time, and we need Apple to go up a little bit and make this execute on screen. That way we can verify it. All right, so we're running, and we see that our highest high is currently 148.18, and our most recent close here is 148.02. So we would need Apple to close above 148.18 in order to trigger this buy signal. And I'll see if it happens on the next bar, and if it doesn't, I'll just cheat real quick and subtract a little bit just to force this to happen. I just want to see the trade actually execute in Interactive Brokers, hear the little voice, and get that satisfaction of knowing this Python program is executing trades. Okay, and so instead of waiting, I'll say if the close is above the previous highest high minus 50 cents. So I'll cheat there real quick. Or maybe that's your strategy. I don't know. So I'm going to run that, let it run. And let me turn up my volume to see if this will trigger. Okay. So my previous highest high, it's going to subtract 50 cents. So it'd be like 147 something. And this next close should go above that. And we should get the trade. And we should see it buy 10 shares of Apple stock. And let me go ahead and shrink this a bit and get our Interactive Brokers going and show that in one place. So we have our live data coming in, so we should get another order filled. There you go. So you see order filled, and you see there's Apple stock, and it buys 10 shares right there, and my fill price is 148.04, and you see that it closed at 148.2. So I'm logging this, and you see how it's above the previous high, 148.18. I subtracted 50 cents, so my print message is still referencing the previous highest high, not the minus 50 cents. So it really closed above 147.78, 68. yeah, 147.68, and so it triggered that buy signal. But in reality, you wouldn't do that. This is just for the convenience of the video. Okay, so we were able to use an indicator in order to trigger a buy there. And so what else, when do we actually exit this trade? And so I think the previous time I discussed this, we used a bracket order. And so like on the opening range breakout, what we said is when it breaks above that previous high, we wanted to give it, take a profit at like $1 or something, and then have a stop loss that is less than that. And so let's just give an example of a bracket order. And so Backtrader actually wraps this bracket order functionality. So if you look in orders here, there's orders in brackets, and you can see there's a function called buy bracket. And so if you haven't watched my previous videos, the way the bracket order works here is you give it a specific price that you're buying at, right? So you have this bracket price here. And then a bracket order is actually 3 orders. So I want to buy it at a certain price. I want to get stopped out if it falls to this price. And I want to sell and take profits if it goes up to this price, right? And so what we can do is just take the current close of Apple. So let's say we want to buy bracket, right? So let's do buy bracket. Okay. And let's say, yeah, we'll take what this looks like here. Okay. And I'll do, so a limit price equals, and then our price that we're buying at. So we'll take just the current close. So we'll take this self.data.close 0 like that. Okay, so we're going to buy at that close price. And let's just say we want to take profits at the close price plus $1. And then our stop price will be the close price minus 50 cents. So we have like a 2-to-1 risk reward here, right? So we'll take profits if it goes up $1 and take the L if it goes down 50 cents. So keep it real tight there. And let's just observe what this looks like in Interactive Brokers. So I'm going to clear this out and let's run it again. And I'll put my cheat code in here again just to make sure this goes through. So I'll just do minus 50 cents here once again. Okay. And so let's run that and let it go. We got some live data coming in now. And now I look here and look at this. So you see there's 3 orders here, right? And so there's an order for Apple. And so there's this buy at 147.87, which I assume, yeah, Apple closed at 147.87. So it put in that buy order. And then you see we have this profit taking order at $1 above 147.87. So the profit is getting taken at 148.87. But we can walk away now, right? Because our amount of loss is protected, so we can get stopped out at 50 cents below. So we took 147.87, which was the current close. We subtracted 50 cents, and this will stop us out of our position. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I think we've covered a good amount of ground on this video. We took our Forex data feed and instead used live stock market data. We pulled in minute data, and then we implemented this stock strategy. I pulled in a couple of indicators, just highest and lowest from Backtrader. We calculated the highest high and the lowest low of the last 5 periods, in this case the last 5 minutes. And then we compared the current close to the previous highest of the past 5 bars, and said if it closed outside of there, we issued a bracket order. So we issued an order at the closing price. We specified a profit-taking amount and a stop price, and we saw that execute in Interactive Brokers. And also we briefly touched on object-oriented programming and the Visual Studio Code extension for Python. So that's quite a bit, and that's it for now. We know how to use Backtrader's live trading integration with Interactive Brokers so that we can take our back test that we're happy with and then turn around and trade it live in the market using the same code. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Be sure to check out the link below for Interactive Brokers and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.